Hey there, everybody. Wanted to do something a little different today and grab your recent blood work and we'll go over it together on what it all means, what the intricacies are of each of these markers, and how you can use that information for your own health. So take a moment, pause the video, go grab your recent blood work, and we'll go through this together. And I'm going to share my screen so we can go through line by line. Okay, now this is my own blood work. So HIPAA safe, but there is a program that I love to use where you put your blood work into the program and it will show you optimal. What's optimal versus what's just normal. So some of the blood markers that you have on your test might be a little bit different than what I ran for myself, but we can go through them all together anyways. So first one, I did a D dimer because this is a blood clot test. Blood clots are something you never want to mess with. If you suspect you have a blood clot, you should get a D dimer. Thankfully, I didn't have a blood clot, but I was wondering if I did. So I did a test. D dimer is a great test for looking for a blood clot. Thankfully, everything was normal. Hey, let's get into the more normal ones, more things that you might have on your blood panel. Vitamin D. Now, vitamin D, this is a controversial thing. Some people and most blood tests will say if you have less than 30, that's not good. But if you have 30, that's fine. That's perfect. I disagree. Optimal vitamin D is between 50 and 80. So that 50 and 80 is when the body can use vitamin D as a signaler for healthy immune system, healthy heart, and also keeping the immune system balanced, especially with autoimmune. Lipids, also known as cholesterol. This is a little bit vulnerable for me because you're seeing some of my things that I need to work on, but this is good. This is a good learning place. So cholesterol panel. First thing you look for is total cholesterol. Now, total cholesterol is the big marker for heart health and making sure that you are staying healthy from strokes. So optimal is below 200. It's the first place to look. Now, total cholesterol is a combination of the different types of cholesterol. Now, the math isn't going to add up perfectly, but it's looking for the different types of densities. So we've got low density cholesterol, very low density cholesterol, and high density cholesterol. Low density cholesterol is also called LDL, and I like to remember that as the quote unquote lousy cholesterol. So L lousy. It's not completely lousy. We definitely need it. It's very good for hormones, but we don't want it to be too high. So ideally, this is less than 100. Now, if this is over 100, you can see mine is 107. If this is over 100, this can mean one of two things that you can do lifestyle-wise. Increasing fiber and increasing higher intensity exercise. Now, please consult with your doctor before you take on any of these for yourself. This is more of an education piece, and then ask your doctor about these things if they would help. I'm also happy to help too. With the fiber and higher intensity exercise, this helps to bind the excess cholesterol and help it leave the body. That's what the fiber does. Fiber binds the cholesterol and then it leaves through the bowel movement. You poop it out. Higher intensity exercise depends on, of course, your own unique history, but a general thought is 20 minutes of higher intensity exercise 3 times per week. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean a HIIT workout, but it can mean cardio where your heart rate gets up to a certain point. The general calculation is 80% of your max heart rate. The calculation there, we're getting really nerdy in this video. The calculation is 220 minus your age. So however old you are in years, 220 minus your age. Then take that number, take 80% of that. 80% of that number is considered 80% of your maximum heart rate. Now, 20 minutes, 3 times a week at that heart rate is very helpful for heart health, and it's helpful for the higher cholesterol numbers. And again, please consult with your doctor on if that's a good move for you. The VLDL, the very low density cholesterol, this is also considered things that we want to be quite low. It's not optimal for this to be high. So lower the better, but at least 5 is good. HDL, the high density cholesterol, also known as the happy cholesterol, so the H happy cholesterol, this is the good cholesterol. The higher density means that the liver doesn't have to work so hard for it to pass through. High density cholesterol is considered a good marker of heart health. Now, to note, some lab tests on the generic labs will have this as the high being 50. And if it's over 50, they say that's bad. That's not necessarily true. We want to look at the whole picture, but typically the HDL cholesterol higher is good for heart health. Last piece on the cholesterol is triglycerides. Now, triglycerides are a marker for how much sugar you're eating, can also be how much alcohol you're eating. So this is kind of a test to see, okay, how is this person really doing with their food scene? Now, less than 150 is considered ideal, but when you're looking at this, you do have to be fasting for this number to be accurate. Most of these cholesterol numbers best with fasting, but especially triglycerides. So if you had even just a granola bar before your blood draw, this number will probably be high. Or if you didn't have a full fast before your blood draw, this number will probably be high as well. So take that with a grain of salt. But ideally, this number is less than 150. If it's higher than 150, that typically means you might be having more sugar than your body's needing, and it's getting converted into these fats, into these triglycerides. Okay, let's go into thyroid. Now, thyroid, this one, oftentimes people don't run the full panel. I'm super picky about thyroid, and I like to see at least 5 markers. There are more than 5 that we can do, but at least 5. Most conventional blood scenes only do 2, maybe only 1. The one that you'll likely see is this one, your TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone. Now, this is actually a marker in your brain. Now, your brain signals down to your thyroid and says either make more or make less. So ideally, the brain stimulating hormone, the TSH, is between 1.8 and 3. Now, there are different schools of thought on this one, and I think that they all have their merit. It's all individualized. The 1.8 to 3 is what we'll use for today. 1.8 to 3. And if the TSH is a little low, like mine's a little bit low right here, that means the brain is telling the thyroid, hey, pump the brakes, slow down. We don't need any more. If the TSH is high, it's giving the opposite signal. It's saying, hey, pick up production. We need a little bit more hormone here. So this TSH marker is actually in your brain. It's not measuring your thyroid output at all, only measuring brain. The thyroid output is with these numbers, these free T4, free T3, and then T4 and T3. Sometimes T4 is the other one that can be run in conventional medical scene. Ideally, we have all 5. These are the actual thyroid output. So T4, ideally between 6.8 to 11.5 is nice. You could even bump it up to between like 6 and 12 as a general optimal. This is exactly how much thyroid hormone of the T4 type that we want. Now, T3 is actually the most active type of thyroid. And T3 is the one that's not measured very much unless you're going to a functional medicine provider. And T3, being that it's the most active, it is really important to see what's going on here. The range is a bit wider for this one. For today's purposes, we can say between 83 and 116, but you could even let it go up a little bit higher to 180 because it's so active. Now, T3 and T4 are good to see on their own because that's the full hormone amount. But then the free T3 and free T4 means that they're unbound. They're not bound to any hormone. So they're also really good to see. The range for these is much more narrow. So free T4, ideally it's between 1 and 1.5, a very small window. This is how much hormone your body is producing and then how much is circulating. Free T3 being this is the active form of T3 and how much of that is actively circulating. Between 3 and 4 is considered optimal for that. The other markers that I didn't run on myself, but that you can run or can ask your provider to run are TPO, which is a thyroid antibody, TSI, which is another thyroid antibody. Those are really good if you have autoimmune thyroid conditions. So think Hashimoto's or Graves' disease. Let me go a little bit further into the metabolism. So hemoglobin A1C is a measure of your blood sugar over a 90-day period. So this is an average of blood sugar over 3 months. 5.2 is my number, and this is considered optimal. Anything below 5.6 is considered very healthy. Anything between above 5.6 is considered prediabetes or diabetes once it gets into the higher numbers above 6.4. So always good to look at. And keep in mind that usually you only want to run these 3 months at a time because it's an average of 3 months. So you can do every 3 months to see how you're scaling and trajecting if that is part of your process. And something that we offer at the clinic is more continuous glucose monitoring, which is honestly one of the best things because you can see your numbers on a day-to-day basis. Ferritin is the storage form of iron. We'll see some iron markers and you can do an iron panel, but ferritin is the storage form. So this is how much extra iron do you have in the tank? This is really good to see for athletes, especially female athletes, and then people who are having periods because your body loses iron with every monthly bleed. So if you have ferritin in the tank and iron storage in the gas tank, that can be really helpful for keeping energy levels high, keeping oxygen levels high as well, and healthy. So ideally, similar with vitamin D, you will see on regular panels that about 30 is considered normal. I completely disagree with that if you're having periods. Up to 100 is considered healthy. And ideally, I'd like to see it over 50. Between 70 and 100 is excellent for people who are having periods. Now, take a pause, take a breath, because we're about to get into the meat here. So, comprehensive metabolic panel looking at metabolism and then immune system. So, on your blood panel, this would be called CMP, a complete metabolic panel. You might also have a BNP, a basic metabolic panel. This will probably be in a different order for you. On this program, it puts the things that are out of range first, and then the rest of the things in subsequent order. So you might have to bump around a little bit. Feel free to pause and find your markers as you need to. So alkaline phosphatase. This is an interesting marker because most of the time it's an inflammatory marker, and it will show if you're having inflammation in your liver, your kidneys, your gut, or your bones. It doesn't specify which one unless you do a fractionated alkaline phosphatase, but alkaline phosphatase generally is an inflammatory marker. Now, that's if it's high, that means you have too much inflammation. If it's low, like mine is, it means something totally different. It can mean that you're not getting enough of an inflammation signal. And this can mean one of two things. It can mean that either your immune system is a little depleted, or you're not mounting enough of an inflammatory response and enough of an immune response when you need it. So with mine being a little low, this was something that I actually started after I got this blood work, is I started taking vitamin C and zinc. Vitamin C and zinc are one of the things that can help the immune system most. And when the alkaline phosphatase is low, it can bolster the immune system so that you have a more appropriate inflammatory response. About when you're looking at these numbers, I like to see this one less than 90. So between 44 and 90 is considered ideal. Now for a couple of these, we're going to cluster them together because they tell a story. Oh, a story that I look for with protein is find your albumin, your total protein, your BUN, and your globulin, which you'll see on the next page. So these are all protein byproducts or protein markers. We can look at total protein first. And if you're having too much total protein, or let's say it's above 7.4, ideally it's between 6.9 and 7.4, then that means that your body is not getting the protein into the cells. So it's circulating through the blood, but it's not getting absorbed in. Similar with albumin, ideally that's between 4 and 5. that can mean that there's too much circulating around, it's not getting absorbed in, and you could use some digestive support. Now, when we're talking about BUN is first and foremost a kidney marker, but it can also be a measure of protein because the kidneys and protein are so intimately connected. So BUN, ideally, I like to see it between 13 and 18. And if it's low, this can mean something similar, where either you're not getting enough protein, you might not be eating enough protein, or the protein that you are eating is not getting absorbed into the cells. So this was a good picture for me to see where I need some more digestive supports even when I'm eating protein. Some of you might know I prefer to be vegetarian most of the time, but my body really does do well with a little bit of meat. However, when I eat meat, I do need help digesting it. So I have some of this digestion support when I'm going to eat protein. Fasting glucose, this is your blood sugar at a snapshot in time. So it's not an average like the A1C, but a snapshot in time. Less than 100 is considered ideal for fasting, but even a little bit lower than that, between 80 and 89 is considered nice, or below 80 is fine to a point that you don't want it to be too low. Sodium, a lot of people think of this as, oh no, I'm eating too much sodium. This can often be an adrenal marker. Sodium and potassium can be adrenal markers because they're salts. They're electrolytes that the body's making. And if the body's making so much, that can mean the adrenals are stressed out. So the adrenals being our sweet little hats that live on top of the kidneys, they fuel us for stressful situations. They wake us up in the morning. And if you're under constant amount of stress, the kidneys and the adrenals can be under stress as well. So let's look a little bit more at some of the kidney markers. GFR is glomerular filtration rate. This is how well your kidneys are filtering. And ideally, it's above 60. Oh, this marker I actually disagree with a little bit, saying that 93 is above optimal, because anything above 60 is considered really good. Your kidneys are just filtering well. Below 60 is when we really want to be mindful of you triggering some action. Some high ticket ones here. So we talked about the liver a little bit. There are two markers that we want to look for on your blood work for liver. They are ALT and AST. ALT and AST are ideally between 10 and 26, this for most people. And this is looking at how, if your liver is stressed out, if you're coming into contact with things that your liver does not like, they will be irritated, they will be high. So keep those markers in mind. We talked about globulin on the previous page and potassium. So potassium is that other adrenal marker. So if it's high, that might mean your adrenals are a little bit stressed out. And then globulin is a protein byproduct. So we want it to be ideally between 1.9 and 2.8. Can even give a little bit more margin for that. But if it's low, that means you might not be getting enough protein. BUN creatinine ratio. This is the final kidney marker where we're looking at the BUN and the creatinine. So this is the BUN creatinine ratio is really a top-notch test for looking at your kidneys. And it can show if you're in kidney stress or in something called renal failure. And it can also show if you're tending towards that direction. So definitely keep that one in mind. Ideally, it's less than 20 for these numbers. When it gets above 20, that can show how stressed the kidneys are. Creatinine, similar, BUN and creatinine, both are kidney markers, but creatinine does have an extra bonus piece of what it shows for how much your body is using muscles as its own fuel. So let's say you're not getting enough protein in your diet, the body will use muscles as fuel instead. So creatinine is something that you can test with that number. So it can show, are you eating enough protein or is your body starting to use fuel? I like to think of this as protein is what's available in your wallet. And then if there's nothing available in your wallet, then it will start to dip into your savings, which is your muscles. We don't want to dip into savings. So getting enough protein, making sure your creatinine is healthy and normal. It's a really good piece. Then last piece for this video, and then we'll do the immune system in the second video because there's so much in there and I want you to have the mental juice to stick with it. So last one here, calcium. A lot of times people think, oh no, if this is too low, it means I'm not eating enough calcium. Not the case, because the body will prioritize calcium in the blood instead of in the bones. The heart uses calcium so much, and we need it on a day-to-day regular basis for just regular heartbeat and healthy signaling. So the body will always put calcium in the blood before it puts it in the bones. So if your calcium is low, definitely look into that a little bit more of, are your bones healthy? Doing a DEXA scan, doing a further test on parathyroid if your calcium is high. That can be more beneficial than looking at this number. And chloride, this cycles back into stomach acid and protein digestion. So protein is digested in the stomach. Chloride, think of the base of hydrochloric acid. Hydrochloric acid has chloride in it. So if this number is high, if it's over 106, that means the body's trying to make more stomach acid and it needs some help. So keep that in mind when you're looking at your chloride. Okay, we'll pause for here, and then we'll do your complete blood count, your immune system, in the next video. That one also looks at your iron and B vitamins as well. So go grab your CBC, your complete blood count, and we'll see you in the next video.